Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Sad Sadiq here for PakPassion, bringing you another exclusive interview. My guest once again today is a Australian cricket legend, part of the fantastic all-conquering Australian team, 71 Tests, 97 ODIs, and he played a T20I. Since retiring from playing, he's coached all over the world, in India, in Zimbabwe, in county cricket, in his home country of Australia. And until recently, he was the head coach of the Pakistan team. Delighted to have Jason Gillespie as a guest once again. Jason, hope you're doing well.
Oh, Saj, thank you for having me, mate. It's great to see you.
Well, Dizzy, I think many of us expected it, but not many wanted it. And that's Pakistan's dismal effort at the Champions Trophy. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, it was obviously disappointing. They would have liked to have performed better, particularly at home. The Champions Trophy in Pakistan, first major tournament there for many a year, and it's pretty disappointing to see Pakistan go out so quickly. No doubt the fans would be pretty disappointed with what transpired. The PCB would be pretty disappointed. It's just a performance that they wish was a lot better. That's for sure.
When you looked at that squad, I know we'll come to some of the players who you think should have been picked. When you looked at that squad on paper before a ball was bowled, did you think that squad had the capability of reaching the semi-finals, final, and maybe even winning it?
Look, we know talent-wise, Pakistan cricket has immensely talented cricketers. Just felt the makeup of the squad, maybe the combinations, maybe weren't quite right. I think a lot of commentators probably said the same thing. It didn't look as balanced a squad as Pakistan could have put out there. That's probably a fair assessment, I think.
I think in terms of putting the squad out there, though, Dizzy, you know, you had players like Irfan, Niazi, Sufiyan, Muqeem, who were being nurtured and prepared for this tournament. And then all of a sudden, they're shown the exit door and other players are brought in who've been in the wilderness for a couple of years. That must have been frustrating for you.
Well, I thought it was really bizarre, to be perfectly honest. You mentioned a couple of guys. Irfan Niazi, I've said to you, he's probably one of the more talented players in Pakistan. He's probably one of the hardest hitters of a cricket ball, and he's the best fielder. He's been given opportunity, been nurtured. Players need time. Young players need time to develop and learn. And the culmination would be this Champions Trophy would have been a really good platform for a player like Niazi, a player like Sufiyan, Muqeem, to showcase what they can do on the big stage. I don't buy this experience rhetoric that keeps coming out. If a player's good enough, then give them the opportunity. And, you know, it shouldn't matter how many games they've got under their belt. If you feel they can perform a role for the team, back them in, get people around them, support them, and give them the love. And, you know, I've always said, ignore youth at your peril. You know, give these guys a platform and show what they can do, because, you know, we've seen glimpses of just the high-end talent that they are. And so for me to not see those guys in the Pakistan squad for the Champions Trophy was a bit disappointing. It must have been.
I guess this selection mess of picking players who you don't think are going to be picked and removing players that you are going to be, who you think are going to be picked, is just part of the chaos and the mess of Pakistan cricket, which you obviously experienced it firsthand, given when you were head coach.
Yeah, look, obviously lots of change in selection panels. The PCB, the board, they make these changes constantly, and you know, at times you can feel for the selectors as well, because they come in and they've got their own thoughts and their own ideas, and things change. Like a structure gets put in place, and you need time to allow that to bloom and develop, and these players, and you have a plan. And then if a result or two doesn't go the way, the board decides to make change again. And then, so you're literally starting again each and every time. And that, for me, I don't think that's a sustainable model for Pakistan cricket going forward. They need some stability. Certainly when, Gary and myself got appointed, a lot of the talk was, was about we want some consistency. We want some stability, consistency with selection, consistency, which will give players opportunity to perform and do well. And that way we'll go a long way towards getting consistent performances on the park. But if things keep being so chaotic and change all the time off the field, how can anyone expect the players on the field to perform? So that's probably been the disappointing thing. I know Gary and I were very passionate about taking the opportunities, taking the jobs on, in the red and white ball space, and we were excited by what we were told. We were told, that we'll be given time to give players opportunities and implement, put game plans in place and implement those. But unfortunately, when one or two results don't go the right way, panic sets in at the PCB level, and that's where all of a sudden change gets made. Yes, I mean, we had change in my short tenure and had a bit of short-term success, but it's not going to, that sort of stuff's not going to translate into long-term success. You need strategies and you need time, you need patience to allow these things to be implemented.
Despite all the outside noise and all the constant changes that you've referred to, Dizzy, there's some very good players in that squad, in that Champions Trophy squad. And, we've seen this in the last sort of 12 months or so, where lost to USA, Ireland, Zimbabwe, and, didn't qualify for the T20 World Cup second stage, knocked out Champions Trophy, obviously lost to Bangladesh at home. So the results have been poor on the pitch as well, Dizzy. Surely these players have to take some responsibility and are underperforming.
Yep, I don't disagree with that. Players are responsible for their performances. But if there is, what I will say and defend players is, if there is constant change behind the scenes, players don't know where they stand. They don't know if they're being backed or supported. They know they might be one or two innings away from being left out and never to be seen again. So, that environment breeds a fear of failure. So players become quite negative and probably trying to look after themselves and make sure their performances, they do enough to stay in the team rather than do the team thing and go out there and perform. So it's a vicious cycle. And I really feel for players that they've had so much change with a lot of change with selectors. They have a lot of change with coaches. I don't blame players in Pakistan if they don't necessarily get too close to coaches, because they're probably looking, and particularly the foreign coaches, they're probably looking at them going, well, mate, you're probably not going to be here in 3 months' time. So why should I listen to you? Or why should I, so I kind of get it. I understand. And it's a sad state of affairs in that respect. You mentioned that there's a lot of wonderfully talented cricketers in Pakistan. I don't buy this rhetoric. I saw some comments from Sunil Gavaskar about the Indian B team or Indian C team would beat the Pakistan top team. That's nonsense, absolute nonsense. The Pakistan pick and stick with the right players and give them time to shine and time to learn and develop their games. They can beat anyone. I've got no doubt about that. They're high-end talent. Just got to pick the right high-end talent and support them and be patient with them. There's far too much impatience, in my opinion, in Pakistan cricket. And if the board, PCB and the board want change and want results to improve, they need to get the right people in place, get the right players on the bus, and get the right selection panel in place and back them in and give them time and be patient with them to allow them to just do their jobs. And same goes with the coaches. If you're going to give a coach an opportunity, give them an opportunity to really build something meaningful, because otherwise the results are going to stay the same.
You obviously got close to many of the players when you were head coach, Dizzy, and they still remain good friends of yours. What were the conversations you were having with the players regarding what were their concerns? You've mentioned about sort of some of them putting individual performances first ahead of the team, possibly. What were the conversations? What was on their mind? What was worrying them as players?
Oh, look, players just want to play for their country. What really stood out for me, and I know, speaking to Gary, was the passion that the players have for representing Pakistan. They genuinely love their country, and they want to perform well for all their fans, for all their family and friends, for all the wonderful fans that are out there supporting Pakistan. They want to put really strong performances on the board. But they're so worried that they play one bad shot, or they miss out, or they bowl a bad spell, that all of a sudden they'll be moved on and never to play again. So there's that real fear of fear of failing and worrying, when my next game's coming from. So that's really, really sad, and the players, they're so good to work with. That I know Gary and I both, really enjoyed Tim Nielsen as well. We absolutely loved working with the players and the coaching staff. We were really excited about trying to build something and build a bit of a legacy, and win games of cricket, win tournaments, win Test series, and the like. And but unfortunately, with the short-term thinking that the PCB have, doesn't allow that to happen, unfortunately.
Aaqib Javed was working behind the scenes, let's just say, when you and Gary were at the helm as coaches, and he was pretty keen to take over as head coach. He got his wish, became head coach in all formats, although he's reminding everyone that he's interim. What have you made of his performance? Surely he's got to hold some responsibility as well for this debacle at the Champions Trophy.
Oh, he certainly has to take responsibility. He made it clear he wanted to be the chief selector, and he made it clear how he wanted the team to go about their work, and that's fine. That's his role. But ultimately, then when he took on the job, as you mentioned, look, I don't know what exact conversations were going on behind the scenes, but it always felt that there were things going on behind the scenes that I certainly wasn't aware of, and it didn't surprise me when he was announced as interim coach. That was all, in my opinion, that was always on the cards. I always felt that was going to happen. Read into that how you want, but ultimately the buck stops with him now with this performance at the Champions Trophy. He wanted the role and he wanted complete control. He got it, and the performance wasn't there. So ultimately, he has to bear a lot of responsibility. I think the selectors need to take a lot of responsibility for the squad that they picked to play in this tournament. And we saw the results, and the results weren't good enough.
Well, the rumours are that he's going to be replaced. Aaqib is on his way out as head coach. So obviously that party didn't last long for him.
No, and I'm not particularly surprised.
We're talking about sort of outside influence in cricket in Pakistan. It seems to me that other countries, the players just focus on the cricket and they're allowed to get on with it. But in Pakistan, and you've touched upon this, there's so much outside noise, and it affects the coaches, the selectors, the players. Given your experience as Pakistan head coach, what needs to change with regards to that?
What I'd love, Saj, I'd love to see former players come out and be a bit more supportive of the current players. I think there's far too much negativity. Look, I understand people are paid to have an opinion, but I think there's having an opinion, there's constructive criticism, but also I find a lot of the comments from former players, they do get stuck into the players a lot, and I think a lot of it's unfair and uncalled for. And I think what these former players have got to understand that wonderful cricketers for Pakistan, no question. I'm not debating that. These guys have got to understand that the current players and the former players have got a bond, and that bond is they've all represented. They've all put on that green cap, and they wear that badge on their over their heart on their shirt, the Pakistan badge, and so they've all got something in common. They're part of a special club that have represented the country of Pakistan. And I just, in my time and, observing and seeing Pakistan cricket, there's just so much negativity around, particularly from former players. I just put it out there to them, like, maybe if you're a little bit more supportive, and yes, if you have to criticise, be constructive about it. Offer and try to offer solutions as opposed to just saying that's bad and that's rubbish. I think can former players who are sort of part-time pundits or whatever be more constructive in the words they use, because the players and their families, they see these comments, they read about it, and they're only human. It'd be easy to say, just don't listen to it, don't bother. But they're all in love with the game of cricket, and players will see their name linked to some comments. Of course, they're going to look at it, and I just think that ultimately puts more emphasis, more pressure, if you will, on players. So I'd just love to see the former players come out and be a bit more supportive of the current lads, because they work hard. They want to do well for Pakistan. And the former players got to remember they were in the current players' shoes once upon a time as well. So they know what it's like. So, maybe they can change the narrative and be a bit more supportive in their various media roles and the like.
Dizzy, finally, what can the board do differently? We've spoken about players, coaches. We've spoken about the lack of stability in Pakistan cricket. At board level, what needs to change? Obviously, you saw, let's just say, the ugly side of Pakistan cricket, if I can call it that. All the behind the scenes things that were going on when you were head coach. But at board level, as I say, what needs to change?
Look, there's a lot of wonderful people working in Pakistan cricket, at board level, but in administrative roles, in coaching and the like. Right, a lot of wonderful people who do have the best interest of Pakistan cricket at heart. I just think what I'd love to see is the board, whatever decisions they make, whoever they appoint going forward in selectors roles, in coaching roles, or whatever, allow them to do their jobs. Boards are there to administer the cricket board. They're not there to get involved in selection. They're not there to get involved in coaching. They're there to be administrators, ultimately. So do that job, and do that job as well as you can, and appoint who you need to appoint, whether it be selectors, coaches, but then just let them get on with it and let them do their jobs, because they're ultimately responsible for the performances of the team. But if the board keep getting involved in all these and making changes constantly on the back of one or two bad performances, I just don't think that's a healthy environment. And you want players, you want the coaches to go out and you want players to go out and play with freedom and play with intent. They need to take responsibility for their performances, absolutely, and no worries. But give them space and give them the opportunity. Create an environment where the players can go out there and train as well as they can and best prepare, and then go out and give them the best chance to perform out in the middle. And that's with players, some stability around coaching, stability around selection. If that's stable, then players will have more confidence to be able to go out and showcase their talent. Because we've seen, Saj, Pakistan cricketers are some of the most talented cricketers on the planet. Okay, it's a big population. It's the nation's #1 sport. Everyone lives and breathes cricket, and it's amazing. It was amazing when I was there for my short time, just how invested everyone is in the Pakistan cricket team. And everyone's desperate for success. I get it, but there's got to be a better way to go about things behind the scenes to allow the team to go out and play. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm suggesting is give the selectors, have the group of selectors get the right people, and then let them get on and do their job to the best of their ability. Pick your coaching staff, allow them to do their job to the best of their ability without interference, and then have a review. Have a review in 2 years' time, and then see where it lands. And if it doesn't land, then absolutely, make changes. That's fine. But for this continual merry-go-round, revolving door of selectors, of coaches, it just smacks of desperation. It's very short-term thinking, and it's not healthy for anyone. The fans will get frustrated, sponsors will get frustrated, everyone within the PCB, players will get frustrated. So I just that would be my advice. I'm sure they're not going to take my advice, the PCB, but that's okay. But that's an outsider's observations on ways for Pakistan cricket to be better. And I want to see Pakistan cricket do well. I've made many lifelong friends in my short time I was there. Same with Gary. Gary and I have communicated, and all we want is what's best for Pakistan cricket. We just want to see the players go out there with a smile on their face, representing their country, and playing, having fun playing cricket for their country. You don't want it to be a burden for players. You don't want them to not enjoy going out and representing their country. This should be the best time of their lives. And I think the PCB, by just letting the players and the coaches and selectors go and do their jobs to the best of their ability, and stay out of the way, I think that'll give Pakistan cricket the best chance of being successful.
Izzy, really appreciate your time once again. Very interesting thoughts and very candid thoughts from yourself there. And I'm sure we'll catch up in the near future once Australia have won the Champions Trophy.
No worries, mate. We're getting to the pointy end of the tournament now. It's very exciting. It's been really good to watch this tournament.
Not if you're a Pakistan fan.
Well, not if you're a Pakistan fan, but a couple of teams have struggled. But look, hopefully Pakistan can turn it around. The things that we've spoken about. Hopefully they can turn it around, because we desperately want to see Pakistan be the powerhouse that we know, that you and I both know that Pakistan can be.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.